a multivitamin. There still are vitamins in there. So they do not do a lot of harm. They don't do as much good as they say they do. So yeah, it still holds a place, absolutely. Are they essential? Absolutely not. Is the best choice a wide variety of foods? Yes. But again, they're large in part, with the exception of maybe the very small fly-by-night companies that are there for a week and gone. Not going to do a lot of harm, at least.
Disorders, like the dangers of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, so with eating disorders, what you have is a person with a psychological, I mean, we talk about bad relationships with food. We have, like, rocky relationships. They have very bad relationships. It is a psychological issue that needs to be dealt with professional psychological care. Because they are prone to obsessiveness, there is suggestions that the same people who would have problems with eating disorders would also have problems with drug addictions and gambling addictions. It is a way they're flowed. For them, yeah, any idea like fasting is not something I'd recommend, because their number one thing is just to rebuild a relationship with their food. That the first half of today, that whole metabolism talk, would be out the window for them. In the last half, I talk about eat, stop, eat, out the window. Their middle part would just be having a relationship with food, being okay, there's no magic foods. That one pea on your plate is not going to cause you to become excessively fat. We have to fix this. And that's done purely through a lot of psychological help, and it is a very difficult process. Yeah, so for them, fasting would be out of the question, because it would be one thing they would immediately take to an absolute extreme. Yeah. Other questions? No? Okay. You want to hit it?
The turbulence training programs, like the traditional programs, not the bodyweight circuits I talked about today, but the original programs that I came up with, and the one that's in the January program, it's all based on a 4S system. Very simple. So you start, that's the first S, and then you start with a bodyweight circuit. So you start with a warm-up. And then you do the strength aspect. So I always do the strength training before the cardiovascular stuff. Now, if you actually, had somebody do interval training before strength training, or strength training before interval training, if you did an actual study on that, I don't think you'd actually find a change in results. So this person, if they did intervals first and then the supersets, they'd probably lose the same amount of body fat if they did the supersets first before the strength training. But I'm biased to strength training because I think it has greater applications long term. I mean, most people need to be stronger, not for tomorrow, but for 40 years from now. So I like to have the strength training, high quality strength training up at the start of the program, and I also am just personally biased. I enjoy that more, so I'm focused on that. And if you did the interval training first, then you would be weaker in the strength training portion. So we want to maximize that strength training. And again, when I trained a high volume of clients, most people needed strength as much as anything else just for daily activities. The third S there is the sweat, so that's just signifying the interval training portion. And then the fourth S is the stretching. So it's very simple. Start, strength, sweat, and stretch. So starting is with that bodyweight circuit warm-up. It can be as simple as 2 exercises. So if you're really pressed for time, you only have about 20 minutes to do your workout, all you need to do is an exercise, a prisoner squat and a push-up, and you've pretty much prepared all the major muscle groups for you to go on to more intense exercises. So the prisoner squat is the squat where we have our hands up behind the head, clasp your fingers behind, and then squat back and down. And that way, with our elbows up and back, shoulder blades together, we're getting our upper back warmed up there, and obviously squatting the lower body has worked as well. And then paired that with a push-up, and your abs are braced in both exercises, so they're getting prepared, and then obviously your arms and your chest are working in the push-up. So it could be as simple as just those 2 exercises back to back, although you see more often than turbulence training programs, there's usually 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 6 exercises in the bodyweight circuit, depending on what we're trying to prepare people for. I like to use that stick-up exercise a lot. So the stick-up is the one where people are up against the wall, shoulders, or elbows, shoulders, wrists, and hands are up against the wall, and your butt's up against the wall, and you're just sliding your arms up and back down. And again, that's for the type of guy that I would see in the gym who has been sitting at an office desk for 20 years and he had very poor mobility. It sounds very easy to do, but when you actually go through that movement, it's actually quite tough. After we do the bodyweight circuit warm-up, we go into what I call the non-competing supersets. And this is kind of the magic of how you can get a lot done in a short amount of time. So non-competing, well, first of all, define supersets. So a superset, in our terms, simply means 2 exercises paired together, back-to-back, with as little rest as possible between each. Now, we're doing this because when I was designing all these workouts, I was doing this for the typical Men's Health reader who had a very short amount of time to work out. So Men's Health reader and my friends as well who were emailing me, just got done university, now they had a real job, so they didn't have an hour and a half every day to work out, so they wanted results fast. And I knew that supersets, obviously, you cut down the rest period between the exercises, you get more workout done. Now the non-competing aspect of it is a little bit different than bodybuilding training. So in bodybuilding training, you're used to doing a chest press and a dumbbell fly, both exercises for your chest in a superset. But that kind of defeats the purpose of being able to train the entire body and get a lot more work done in a short amount of time. So the non-competing superset simply means you're working one muscle group or one area of your body with one exercise, and then the other exercise works an entirely different part of your body. So the 2 exercises do not compete for the same muscle groups. Pretty easy to do on a broad level. The only thing you have to be careful of is your grip strength. That's the one that actually becomes the hardest muscle group or hardest area to choose non-competing exercises. Because if we wanted to do an upper body pulling exercise and a lower body exercise with dumbbells, well, then it becomes very tough because we're going to have to hold dumbbells in almost every lower body exercise, and then we're going to have to do rowing and pulling the dumbbell. So your grip strength is going to be fatigued and your performance is going to be impaired there. So we have to be creative. So generally, we'll only pair a lower body exercise that holds dumbbells with a pushing exercise. So it could be a chest press with dumbbells or push-ups. Now in the turbulence training workouts, there's usually 3 non-competing supersets, but you can probably get 75 to 80% of the results if you only did even just 1 non-competing superset with the best exercises. So if you did a dumbbell squat and then dumbbell chest press, you're going to get most of your results because you're training most of the major muscle groups there. And going back to what Brad said, we just need to apply enough of a stimulus to maintain the muscle mass for people who only are worried about losing body fat. Now, if you want to gain more muscle, then you have to do a little bit more volume. But just on on the most basic level, all you need is 1, 2, or 3 exercises to make sure that you apply enough stimulus to the body so that it maintains muscle mass. Because that's what strength training is. It's a stimulus sent to the body, and the body adapts to it by recovering and repairing so that the next time you ask it to do that same thing, it's able to do it with less effort. That's what all the aspects of training, from cardiovascular training to strength training, that's what they are all about. Applying a stimulus that's not too little and not too much, that has your body repair itself so the next time you ask it to do that exact same stimulus, it would have an easier time doing it. So the analogy is a construction worker. You get a 14-year-old kid, he starts a construction job. Today he can carry 6 bricks on his back up the ladder up to, or 1 stack of shingles up to the roof. Over time, his body adapts so that he's carrying a stack and a half, and so on, and you build that up. And that's the exact same thing that we're doing with our training sessions, building ourselves up to have our bodies adapt to what the stimulus is. So we're going to go over some of the turbulence training workouts in a second, but that's the start and the strength, and now the sweat part is the interval training and all the alternatives that we went over this morning, and then finish off with stretching, focusing on your tight muscle groups. Back when I was training a lot of people, I came up with a system that I just realized that most of my workouts, when I took a look at them, they all kind of just addressed what I came to refer to as hot zones of the body. And the hot zones being the areas with the most muscle. So there's 4 of them. And the first one is the upper back. So the upper back is an area that we try and make sure that we include an exercise for warm-up for the upper back. That's one of the hot zones. The second one is chest. So chest and pushing muscles are the second hot zone. Third, the abdominals, or what I call the torso area.